Alright, so I am launching phase 4 of my early access style library. The very first and probably one of the biggest features in phase 4 is going to be the mini games. The first mini game, which is currently available, will be the A New Hope training remote mini game. And I just want to give kind of a quick overview of how to set it up, what the options are, and things to look out for. Mini games in and of themselves are extremely complex, but I've made it as simple as I can for you to be able to customize it, set stuff up, and make it work like you want. In addition, Jesse over at Kyberphonics, he's donated the necessary sounds for the mini game, so those will be downloadable through the early access library. And you're going to want to use those or create your own. So the first mini game is completely sound based, so if you're missing the necessary sound files, you're not going to be able to use the mini game. But there's going to be a lot of information that comes with the style code when you export it, so we'll go through that. So first and foremost, what I'm going to do is you're going to choose a base style. So since we're going to go after A New Hope, I'm going to grab the original trilogy rotoscope style, and then we'll go in. And then obviously you can do all your customization, so I'm not going to go through all that. But I have made the mini game. There's multiple options as well as multiple ways to set it up. So I'll show a couple of them, but there's going to be a lot more, and then there's also new stuff coming. So this will always be getting updated as I roll through the different editions of Phase 4. So the easiest and the most basic setup is going to be using a special ability. So you'll have your special abilities. You can choose right here, you'll see the ANH training remote minigame. That's going to add the minigame to your style code. It's also going to give you the trigger on special ability 1. So for now, we'll just add that. Now, when you add the minigames in and of themselves have their own options. So just below the special ability selection, so you can make all your other selections for special abilities, etc. But if you want to customize the game experience, you're going to go to this minigame option that will open up when you choose the minigame. And as I noted, right here is the zip file. So you'll download this. This is only the sounds for the minigame. This is not a full font. So you're going to want to download this zip file. It's going to be a TR folder, as it mentions. Within the TR folder is all the sounds for the minigame. They need to be named a very specific way. The style code will also tell you this. And they need to be added to your font. Now, if you have a font that already has a TR folder in it, and it has sounds that you intend to use, you're going to need to rename those sounds. So the mini game is going to require very specific sounds in order to work properly, and those sounds have to be the exact format that the style code expects. Otherwise, you'll have issues with the mini game. But so everybody who's an early access patron, Jesse has graciously donated these sounds to you. And you can add them to any font you want. So you'll download the zip file, just click here, it'll get you those sounds. And again, those are just sounds you're going to add to any font you want for the minigame. From there, the options are pretty straightforward, but we'll talk about them. So the A New Hope minigame is based off of the training scene on the Millennium Falcon when the little floating trading remote is going around and Luke's trying his lightsaber out. Basically, there's going to be multiple sounds. There's quotes from Obi-Wan with the sound file from Jesse, but more importantly, the training remote itself. There's two types of sounds. The first is going to be the movement sound, which are those little hisses. It's when it's floating around. Those sounds are innocuous, so you don't want to react to those sounds. So you'll hear those sounds, and it's going to be randomly selected. It's going to randomly select a sound as well as how many times it occurs. So there'll be different sounds, but they're all the little hiss sounds, which we'll hear in a second, moving around. The second sounds are the ones you want to react to. That's when the training remote actually fires. So there's going to be sounds of the remote moving and then sounds of it firing. You have to react only to the sounds firing. So when you hear the firing sound, you're going to want to quickly swing your blade, and that will deflect it. Now, if you don't react quick enough, or if you swing, but it's at one of the hiss sounds, and you don't get your blade stabilized, meaning you stop the swing and allow it to set, you're going to miss as well. So the way that the detection is it's the swing occurring after that blast sound. But if you are swinging as the blast sound plays, meaning you swung at the wrong sound, you have to come to a stop. And then you have to start your swing again after that blasting sound. So you can miss through those two mechanisms. So either you didn't swing in time when the blast sound occurred, or you swang before the blast sound and didn't reset to stabilize your blade. So you need the swing motion to stop and only start after the blast sound plays. You can show how that happens via the miss and strike effect. So if you don't want a visual effect on your blade, you would choose none. But by default, I have the emitter. So what will happen is if you miss, there's going to be a red emitter mark. In this case, it's set for red. Again, you can pick any color you want, and you can pick where it appears. So if you want it to be a spark down, that would be something from the tip down. If you want it to appear in the center, if you want it to appear at the tip of your blade, if you want it to appear at the full blade, on the full blade, this just denotes that you missed, and that's how you keep track of it. So 3 strikes or 3 misses, and the game is over. And the way this mini game is built, if you lose the mini game, it's going to retract your blade automatically. So your blade will turn itself off. You can turn it back on, but the blade will retract itself. There's also going to be throughout, whenever you have a miss, there's going to be in the default TR sounds, there are quotes from Obi-Wan encouraging you or helping you along. And that's the other second part of it. So there's a visual effect, which you can choose, or you can turn it off. But then there's also built into this mini game, there are the sounds. In this case, the default sounds from Jesse are going to be quotes from Obi-Wan based on, that you missed. The second thing is you can choose how you want to win. So there are currently 2 options. It's either 3 successes, which just means you have successfully blocked 3 of those blasts before you hit 3 strikes. So everything is before you hit 3 strikes. The default, though, is a little bit harder. It's 3 consecutive. So what that means is you have to block 3 consecutive blasts before you get 3 strikes. So if you block 1, but then you get a strike, you're back to 0. You have to block 3 in a row. So that's what that means. And then if you want something to denote the win in addition to the prize, so the prize we'll talk about in a minute, you can also set up a transition. And this is just something that will happen to the blade when you win. So if you lose, blade, you'll get a quote, telling you to try again. From Obi-Wan, but the blade will also retract itself. If you win, by default, I have it set up to just give you the prize. And we'll take a look at the prize as well in a second. So for the prizes at launch, I've set up a group of new styles, and these styles are only available for the mini game as a prize. They are enhanced, or I'm calling them imbued rotoscopes. There's several options. So the group at the top here, anything that says imbued, these are brand new styles I've designed for the minigame. They take the hyper responsive rotoscope style and they actually add a brand new responsive effect that I'm calling imbued. In this case, what it does is there's 2 types. There's a swing imbued, which means when you swing, your blade gets imbued with a little bit of boost of color for a short period of time, depending on the intensity of the swing. The pulsing imbued will just kind of have a glowing effect to it built into the rotoscope. So it's the hyper responsive rotoscope, but now it's got this extra layer in there that's going to have either just a set pulse, which will have a pulsing, almost like an enhanced power up on the blade, which will be the prize, or the swing imbued, which means when you do a swing, you'll actually get that little bit of a bright addition to color. So it's basically enhancing the color of the blade, whatever you choose. And then, of course, all these other styles, if you just want something different as your prize, they're also available as base styles. But the group of imbued blades at the top, these are only styles that are available as prizes. So if you want to use these styles, you have to load the minigame and you have to win it. And the minigame, when you win, the prize stays active the entire time the preset's active. If you change presets or if you turn off your saber, you lose the prize, you have to win it again. So it is a temporary state. The prizes are not permanent, so but that kind of gives you encouragement to use the game. But once you've won the game, if you turn the saber on and off, if you retract the blade, not cut power. If you cut the power, you will keep your prize. And then, of course, you can choose the color. So the imbued blades do enhance the color. So if you just want it to be a slight change, you could set your prize color to match your base color. And then the imbued effect will actually brighten that color up additionally as part of the effect. But for default, I have it set to alt color, just so it stands up. So I'm going to leave everything. This is just all the default stuff. Again, everything's customizable. Just take a look through here. Oh, final note, if you want your prize, your special style, to have an alt font associated with it, you can also set that up, which means you can have a different sound running for the prize style. So you can also do that by just checking this checkbox here. Instructions for font setup on alt fonts are already on the library, and the style code will give you additional information. But let's do a quick test here. So I'm going to use the basics, and we did set the special ability 1. So this is sound based. So as the note here says, it's going to use our sounds for the cues. So we're going to turn on the sound. So the easiest thing to do is just use the free open source, and just teensy SF is the most basic of the sounds. You don't have to do that. If you want to load up sounds, you can, but this is just to get off the ground. And then you're going to want to turn your sounds on. Now, the sounds on the previewer, if you haven't used them, they're just emulation. So, and like particularly like the hum, there's going to be like a gap sometimes when it resets. So it's not perfect, but it does give you a kind of a sense. Now for the timings, it's pretty good from all my testing. But again, this is kind of just to help you get a preview. This is not identical in how ProffieOS actually operates. But we'll turn the sound on. You should hear the sound if this recording is working right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to activate our special ability to turn on our minigame. Now this minigame for the New Hope, you're going to wait to hear the blasting sound. So you're going to hear some hisses. So those are the movement. I'm going to try not to talk over them. But as the hisses are occurring, you don't want to swing. You do want to hit the swing button just as soon as you hear the blast sound. So let's go through. I'm going to purposely miss the very first time, so you can see what the miss does, as well as you'll hear the quotation from Obi-Wan when you miss. But then we'll try to get our 3 consecutive so we can run our prize. So we're going to activate special ability 1. Once I click this, then it will be a quote from Obi-Wan, which starts the game, and then immediately the remote will start to move around and you'll hear those hiss sounds, and that's what you want to listen for, both the hiss and the blast. There are multiple sounds from Jesse in that default font, the default TR folder, so there's different hissing sounds, so it's not going to be the same sound repetitively. There's also different blasting sounds, but they're all close enough, and the difference between the hiss and the blast is good enough that if you actually pay attention, you can pick them. Let's do a quick run. I'm going to stop talking, and I'm just going to let the sounds do the talking. I'm going to miss on purpose first time around, and then I'm going to try to get 3 blasts blocked by clicking the swing button.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him. Your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them. Taken your first step into a larger world.
And so that's the win. So I swang early because I've been playing this game a bunch actually to make sure it all operates correctly. So I swang on the first one. I was supposed to miss it, but you did see the red mark on the miss. There's a red mark at the hilt. It's a very short temporary one, but it's just to let you know you missed, but there's also a quote. And then I did get my 3 consecutive, and so this is my swing imbued blade, and it's set for all color right now. So if I swing, the color should change a little bit. Yeah, it's subtle. It looks better on the extra side. I think green maybe is a tough color. But so, and you can choose any colors you want. So now let's go. I'm going to rerun it. So if you redo your special ability, it resets the blade style and it starts the minigame again. And this time I'm just going to let it miss 3 times. And you'll see the saber's actually going to turn itself off.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him. Your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them. Stretch out with your feelings. I suggest you try it again, Luke. This time, let go your conscious self. And act on instinct.
So the little breakdown there, this is because this is, so the sounds don't always play great on the previewer depending on how your internet connection is working and all that. So there was a delay in that closing statement from what we want, but that means you lost the game. And the saber turning off is another signifier. And then of course you can choose any. So if you choose for special ability 5 through 8, which you can do, it's going to ignite your saber and then begin the mini game right away. So this essentially, and this one, and actually the third option for the mini game, which is an interactive prion, works similarly, except the obviously special ability 5 through 8, that's a unique control. So what that'll do is when you use those unique special abilities while the saber's off, you will ignite the blade and then the mini game will start. And as you saw, if you lose the mini game, the saber turns itself off. So with that concept, I've also added a new interactive prion, which is the A New Hope remote mini game unlock. So what this one does, if you set it as an interactive prion, and you can mix and match, so you can have special abilities and interactive prions. Interactive prion is when you push your power button. So if you push your power button with an interactive prion, what's going to happen is the saber is going to ignite and it's going to begin the mini game right away. If you fail the mini game, the saber turns itself off. Now, if you have gesture enabled ignitions, they will bypass the mini game, so it's not a full lock feature. Just because interactive prion does not work with gestures for gesture ignitions. But if you have a power button and you turn off gestures, you can technically set up so that your saber is essentially locked to anybody unless they win the mini game. That's the concept there. So for yourself, or if you want to give it to a friend, you can set up your interactive prion to be the New Hope Training Remote mini game unlock, and then when they push the power button to ignite your saber, it's going to ignite, but it's going to start in the mini game mode, and you have to win the mini game for that saber to stay on, because if you get 3 strikes, the saber is going to turn itself off. So it essentially becomes kind of a way you have to earn the saber. It's a new feature. Now, I've actually got a lot of other ideas for how to take mini games and use them in different ways. But so at launch, you've got special abilities. So special ability 1 through 4, just you do it whenever you want while the saber's on. Special ability 5 through 8, you would use those special abilities to turn on the saber and begin the mini game right away. Or you can set an interactive prion. The mini game is exactly the same. These are just the mechanisms by which you enter the mini game. But if you set the interactive prion to minigame and you want to test it out, again, you'll set all your options here. So let's do full blade just so it's a little different, and let's change our prize to be alt color 3, and let's try the pulsing one. So we'll get all that set up. To test the interactive prion, you're going to click the prion button. If you click the power button, it just ignites and it doesn't do the minigame. Interactive prions are a little different in the previewer than they are in the OS. But if you're in the OS with my prop, if you have an interactive prion, when you push the power button, it will begin that way. But for our purposes, I've still got sound on. We'll do the interactive prion by clicking the prion button, and then I'll miss one at least, but we're going to try to win it, and then unlock what our other imbued style looks like. So here we go.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him. Eyes can deceive you, don't trust them. You've taken your first step into a larger world.
And so now this is the pulsing version, so this will slowly cycle the color. It's a slight variation to the color, so it brightens it and dims it just slightly. Again, it kind of looks better on the roadway than in the previewer. Again, you can also choose any colors you want. But so by winning, now my saber's unlocked and it's with the prize. Now, you can also just set it so that there is no game prize, and your game prize for the interactive prion is just that your blade stays on. So all this stuff, anything you don't want, you can turn off by choosing none. So something with the strikes, if you don't want to see the strikes, turn it off. By default, the transition is turned off. This is just a power effect. If you win, But so that's the basics. So you can mess around with the mini game in the previewer, but it's definitely way better of an experience on your Saber. But you do need to get the style code. So let's just take a quick peek at this. I export my style code. So click the style code. You want the green that you're going to keep the style code intact. And then I'm just going to go ahead and turn this on. There we go. So now I've gotten my style code. Now this would be, you'd set this up in your config, but for our purposes, I just have an empty file. So I'm going to paste it here. So there's a ton of code. We're not going to worry about that. So the style information section, again, I've said this at numerous places and numerous times. This is extremely important for the style code, both for you to be able to use it, but also if we ever need to troubleshoot. So this section at the top here, the copyright and all this information needs to stay with your style code in your config. This is considered a comment, so that's the end of the comment. That's the beginning of the comment. It has no impact on memory. So I can have pages and pages of comments. When you go to upload this to your board, it has no impact on how much space the style code takes up. But you do want to keep this there. In particular, because of the setup requirements for the minigame. So at the bottom of this section is going to be a bunch of information about your minigame. This is very important for setup. So most important is the sound. So Jesse's, the download, the TR folder that Jesse provided already has these sounds set up, but if you wanted to set up your own to line up with how the style is designed, you need to name your files exactly how it says. So TR00, that sound file needs to be what starts your game. It can be anything you want. TR1 through 6, those are the movements. So in our cases, those are the hisses of the training remote. You do want them to be different enough from your blasts, or it makes it really hard to figure them out. The sounds Jesse provided are different enough. They work great. Sounds 7 through 12, those are the firing. So you have multiple different blaster sounds available. And then the strikes are in order. In our case, they are quotes from Obi-Wan for each miss. And then obviously when you hit strike 3, you're going to lose. And then the final is the 16th, which is when you win the game. When you go to deflect the incoming blaster shots, it just uses the default blast effect and default blast sound, so you don't have to worry about that. That's whatever's default to your font. If you want to change that, you would just change that within the font. And then this is your information about how the game works. It's pretty straightforward, but this way if you ever forget what's going on with it, this is all here. But you want to keep this section with the style code, because if you load the style code and you don't have these sounds in your font and you don't know how it works, you won't be able to use the game properly. And then in terms of adding the files, that's pretty straightforward. So you're going to download that zip file. It'll be a bunch of TR sounds. The TR folder itself goes in your font. And then as I noted, if your font that you're adding this to already has a TR folder or has TR sounds, they will need to be renamed, and you'd have to rename them starting past 16. So if you have already a TR00, TR01, etc., and you want to keep those sounds, you have to rename them to be 17 and later, because by default, and there's really no way to modify this without destroying the code, the minigame expects TR00 through TR16 to both exist and to be the sounds it expects. And that's actually probably one of the most complex parts of writing the minigame, is keeping those sounds all aligned and running properly. So that's why I'm providing, again, with help from Jesse, by providing those sounds. You can just download that TR folder and add it to your font, and you're good to go. You don't have to do any additional work. It's just if you want to use different sounds, if you want to change the sounds, or if you intend on creating your own, you do want to follow what the minigame is expecting. So that's basically it. This is available at the launch of Phase 4, which should be very shortly. If you're using the style code, if you're using a library and anything comes up, just use this questions or issues link and post the issue, the question, as well as if you generate style code like this, post the style code so I can look at it. There's a bunch of troubleshooting information included in here that will help me figure out what's going on. And just for everybody who's kind of new, Phase 4 has been in development for a really long time. There was a lot of little gremlins within the previewer that made it very hard for the minigame to actually operate, as well as for me to get the interfaces running for you to be able to make all the selections and editing. So I've knocked out every one I've run into. It does not mean I've got them all. So just like anybody who's visited the library in the past, if something doesn't work, just let me know, and I usually get it fixed as quickly as possible. Same goes for this. If the style code doesn't run for you, just post. This style code has been pretty well tested on my actual sabers, so I'm pretty sure it should run fine. The biggest thing I will say is if you're missing the sounds, the TR sounds, or you didn't get them added to your font, or your SD card got corrupted or something, that would be the primary issue, because without those sound effects, there's no way to know what time you're supposed to react to that. But I'm really excited to get this launched. I know a lot of people have been waiting a long time. This has been a long time coming. This style code is by far the most complex that I've ever created, and then I had to take it and modify it so that all the users could customize it. So there is a lot of work behind this, but I'm really excited to get it out to everybody, so I really hope you enjoy it. Definitely check out the demo. I have a demo video of me actually using this exact style code generator that we just did today, so you can see it in action. Of course, the best thing is to join the early access library, download it, set up your font, set up your config by adding the style code, load it up, and play around with it. So I definitely hope you enjoy.